Ubisoft announced a lot about the future of Assassin's Creed in September of 2022, but don't worry, this franchise leaks like a faucet. So we are, of course, getting much more than that, albeit not for a while, but again, we're going to go over this article today, as well as what I kind of think about all this Assassin's Creed stuff going on. So without further ado, remember, if you do enjoy today's video, don't forget to leave it a big old like. Also, if you enjoy content like this, you want more like it, be sure to check out that button underneath the video. It used to be red. It says subscribe. Last but not least, gotta thank my channel members. You guys help make these videos possible. If you want to join, get access to the exclusive perks that they get, be sure to check out that blue join button. Anyway, let's begin. Now, in an article by Tom Henderson over at Insider Gaming, so if you follow leaks and rumors in that kind of space, you're probably familiar with Tom. But he describes how Ubisoft is going all in on Assassin's Creed with 4 more games already planned. That is the title, super original there, Jaws. And I want to go over some of the things that he describes in this article. It's not a super long article, so if you want to read the whole thing, I'll link it down below, but we're going to go over some of it. I'm going to give some of what my thoughts are on all this Assassin Creed-ness going on. Anyway, first he goes over the things we already know. We got Mirage, Codename Red, Hexe, and Jade coming out, and that's already been announced, as well as the Project Nexus VR title, which is expected to be shown off at E3 later this year. Which, just to stop for a second, I think of any game that could get me into VR, I think an Assassin's Creed VR game could really do it, because I mean, just imagine something like Unity, but in VR, like in first person. That would be absolutely awesome, if done right. Anyway, apparently there are 3 more fully fledged titles that are in development from Ubisoft Sofia, Ubisoft Chengdu, and Ubisoft Annecy. And I'm going to go over each one here kind of as the article does. There's also a plan for Nexus 2 already being discussed, which sounds like they're really confident in the first Nexus title. Now these three fully fledged games are going to be Nebula, Raid, and Echoes, each one being pitched by different smaller studios, some of which you might be familiar with because they've helped with previous Ubisoft titles or even Assassin's Creed titles, such as Ubisoft Sofia. I think if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, this is probably one you're the most familiar with. They helped out with Assassin's Creed Liberation as well as Rogue. Now, apparently their project Nebula is going to feature 3 different settings in India, the Aztec Empire, and the Mediterranean, which sounds really awesome, and honestly all 3 of those could deserve their own individual games. Of course, the Mediterranean would be like Odyssey and Origins and the Ezio trilogy, but you could do a lot with the Mediterranean, to be honest. I think Punic Wars type of setting would also be pretty cool. And then, of course, India and the Aztec Empire could easily feature their own titles with the amount of history that they command and events that went on there. But one thing I would speculate about for that type of setting, if they're doing all 3 in one game, it's either going to be something that's cross-era where you have 3 characters and they'll kind of be in different eras but be connected somehow, or it'll be one character that's going place to place, maybe during the Age of Exploration. I think that could be a very interesting style of doing it, but again, these are all in conceptual phase, so as far as what could actually be happening, I have no idea. It's just apparently supposed to have those 3 settings. Again, could bang, but we'll see. Then there's Ubisoft Chengdu, who's working on Project Raid, which is supposed to be this really interesting free-to-play 4-player co-op title. It'll be PvE. So this is different from what Annecy is working on, it sounds like, at least. Annecy is also working on a multiplayer game, and they've worked on the multiplayer portions of Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell, as well as working on The Division 2 with Massive Entertainment. Now, I'll get a little bit more into what they're looking at. Theirs sounds a little bit more like the old school Assassin's Creed multiplayer, where it's more competitive. I don't even know if competitive is the right word, but you're going against people, not so much with people. Chengdu's is going to be, I would say, the best comparison is something like Unity's multiplayer, which honestly, if you get a functional co-op multiplayer Assassin's Creed game, could be really awesome. I mean, imagine a whole free-to-play game. You have several maps, so maybe you can start in Florence, then you can go to Paris, then you can go to London, then you can go to all these different cities, and you can go through these different co-op missions in these different cities. I think that could be really fun for a free-to-play type of game. You'll also, the rumor states that you'll be able to select different characters from the Assassin's Creed universe. So maybe one of you wants to be Ezio, one of you wants to be Arno, and you head to London, and you're going to take on Industrial London as those 2 assassins. Or you could even do up to 4, so you could have Ezio, Arno, Connor, and Altair, and you're in London doing cool assassin stuff. That could be really awesome. And if you've played Unity's co-op, probably know when it works, it's some pretty good, you know what I'm saying? It can that's some good eating right there. Lastly, again, to get back to Ubisoft Annecy and their multiplayer game, again, it sounds a lot more like the old school Assassin's Creed multiplayer where you're kind of going against your friends or, of course, randos online, and you're hunting them down in these crowds using social stealth, the various things that you learn from the base game, and hunting them down and taking them out. Again, that could be cool. Apparently, it's using Ubisoft scalar technology, which I'm not super versed in exactly how to describe it. The best way I can describe it is it's almost like its own actual world, like it's server side. So it'll take the map and everything kind of that goes on that normally would be on the hardware side will be server side. So say, for example, I don't know, you go and you assassinate a guard, you hide him in a hay bale. If someone, a friend or something, joins that server, they go into that hay bale, come back 10 years later. If no one's moved that guard, he'll still be in that hay bale. That's from what I understand. This will allow them to take a lot of the heavy lifting off of hardware, allow a lot of the environments and weather to be done server side, so that it's a bit easier on things like PCs and consoles. That's my understanding. I could be way off on describing that. I might be making it sound better or worse than it really is. And if someone, preferably a Redditor who's willing to type enough, wants to correct me in the comments, please leave a long comment. I will heart it. Anyway, it sounds really cool, to be honest. Sources suggest that the series will be going back to its annual release cycle. Kind of guessed this since it sounds like we got like 10 different things going on, and each entry is going to be significantly different from the last, which is something I do want to touch on once I kind of get through this whole article thing. So first, of course, Assassin's Creed Mirage. That's the only one that we've really gotten a trailer for. That is apparently scheduled for August of this year, which will be followed by Nexus soon after. It doesn't say when during 2023, but it's coming in 2023 apparently, so between August and December. Following this will be Codename Red in 2024, and then Invictus for 2025, with Hexe, the last official one that we know about, coming in 2026. Again, these are, you know, rumors, so this could change. A lot of people thought Mirage was coming in March of this year, but now it's apparently been moved back to August, so I would say don't hold too much stock in these dates, but, you know, it could happen. Now, of course, with the ones that are in the prototype phase, so Nebula, Raid, and Echoes, these are probably going to take several years, and we won't see them until the late 2020s, so I wouldn't expect seeing trailers and all that for these anytime soon, especially since they're not even in full-fledged development. They're just in the concept phase. Codename Red, since I think a lot of people are really excited for that one, is apparently in good shape, according to the sources, and it does have a spin on the series set to have 2 playable characters. So I guess similar to what Ubisoft Quebec did in Syndicate, where you have Jacob and Evie. The game will also have a strong focus on stealth, which it freaking better if it's going to be about the shinobi, or as you colloquially probably refer to them as, ninjas, which didn't exist. I mean, the shinobi did. They weren't referred to as ninjas, though. Anyway, did you know shinobi are also samurai? You know, I'm going to make a video about Assassin's Creed Red, so just subscribe if you want to hear me nerd out about shinobis and stuff. Anyway, let's talk about all this, because there's a lot of good here and a lot of please help here. What do I mean by that? So a lot of these ideas sound really cool, and I have nothing against these smaller studios getting a shot at having their own full-fledged title that they're going after. It was only just like a month ago we got Hogwarts Legacy, which is from a small studio whose previous game was Cars 3 Driven to Win, a crossplay title from 2017 that'll be on, you guessed it, the Xbox 360 and Xbox One, as well as PS3 and PS4. That was the most recent title they worked on, and then they just released a banger with Hogwarts Legacy, and they were a smaller studio. So I'm all for these smaller studios getting a shot at making their own game, having their own vision shine through. That's awesome. And in concept, these 3 games sound like they could all 3 be interesting in their own way, on top of the ones that we're already getting. What I am concerned about is that Ubisoft hasn't learned their lesson. Why did the series take a break in 2015 and wait until 2017 to give us Origins? Because of franchise fatigue. We were getting the game every year, it wasn't evolving enough, people got tired of it, and then the camel's back was broken with Unity, which came out a buggy disaster despite all the hype for it, and then Syndicate didn't really do anything special, and their fans were just tired of it. There's not enough here. We got excited from one thing, it was not fun because it didn't work, and then we got a kind of boring game right after it. And then we come out with Origins because we waited a year, listened to people, and we dropped a banger with Assassin's Creed Origins, and on it goes on from there. Now, I think fans are in somewhat of a similar place. I think they got tired with the massive RPG games that, especially by the time you get to Valhalla, kind of were watered down in different ways. And this is where Ubisoft seems to be going in a circle. I think they're trying to do a 180, but what they're really doing is a 360. And they're not learning that the quantity side of things is not everything. You need to have some quality in there. There can be a lot to do in a game. Look at Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in your own franchise. There's quite a bit to do in that game. But it's not so much that you're like, this is too much, I just want to put the game down because there's nothing worth investing in. This is where you get Valhalla, which has social stealth. It has the RPG mechanics. It has the giant open world. It has tons of little activities you can do that aren't side missions but are kind of side missions, but the side missions are also kind of forced into the main narrative, padding it out so you have a 100-hour Viking epic. Again, it's a lot for the sake of having a lot, but there isn't a lot of quality that balances it out. There's some things you could probably have trimmed off of Valhalla but gone deeper with some other mechanics that got you more invested in certain things in the title. And what I feel like is happening here is, instead of having one game with everything in it, but is like, you know, as deep as a kiddie pool, instead we're making an entire game around one thing. So we have 100 different games, but they're all about one thing from previous titles, which could work out to being the same problem in a different way, where you have a bunch of games that just aren't deep enough or large enough or have enough scope to really get people interested. And I'm worried that they're just kind of throwing things at the wall and hoping people latch onto one of them. And I kind of get the thinking. The Assassin's Creed fan base has people who like a lot of different things. You have your stealth and parkour crowd. You have your lore crowd who just want to show up for the story. You have your people that love the RPG games. You have a lot of different fans in this fan base, in this community, I guess is probably a better term for that. And it's difficult to appeal to all of them, but I feel like having separate games that still have their focus but have more than just one thing that they're about could be more of the answer. Like sort of what they're doing with Mirage and Codename Red. You have this more traditional Assassin's Creed game that makes the stealth, story, and parkour people happy. But then you have an Assassin's Creed Codename Red. Okay, it's going to focus on stealth because it's about Shinobi, but it's also going to be more of an RPG style game, so you can expect a more open world, maybe dialogue choices, things like that. They lean a little bit more into the fantastical sides of things. That's fine. You have these two separate things that have their own focus, but they still come together in a way to where you're satisfying both crowds, but you're not isolating each individual mechanical thing and being like, let's make a whole game around it. It needs to be a little bit more than that. And so that's what I'm worried about. Are they just going to try, all right, let's do an Assassin's Creed horror game next. Let's do an Assassin's Creed Battle Royale next, which was a joke. Like, imagine an Assassin's Creed game without assassins. That'd be crazy, and then they did it. When are we going to get the Assassin's Creed Battle Royale? I know it's coming. I know someday someone's going to come out with it, and the joke will be... I want them to do it just to fulfill the joke, just so I don't even have to worry about it anymore. So that's really what I'm saying, is the 180 would be going from quantity is everything to... okay, let's balance some quality in there, some quality and quantity. Instead, they're passing that because they got to go all in. So they're going from quantity is everything to, okay, let's talk about some quality going in there by kind of cutting some ideas down, but let's go all out on it. We're all in. So they're going back to quantity is everything. And I'm just worried that we're going to get franchise fatigue right back because I want all of these to hit and be good, but the odds of that are just not very high because you can only keep the integrity of what your franchise is about for so long before you just nothing sticks, because nothing is Assassin's Creed, because everything is Assassin's Creed. And so it just kind of evaporates into everything's Assassin's Creed. You just do whatever, throw a hood on it, and it's an assassin. You can play any game and you're an assassin, and that just it's the same problem with a different face on it. So that's what I'm really worried about with this. Again, some of these could absolutely bang. Some of these could be awesome. And I hope they are. I hope all of them are awesome. I want as many good games as possible. Don't get me wrong. I don't make content on this because I hate the game. I enjoy these games. That's why I sit down and edit videos in my free time to talk about the games that I care about. I want them to be awesome. I have my worries about the ways that they're going about it, and I hope that they've learned their lesson, but if these things are true, I just don't know if they really have. So anyway, let me know down below, what do you think of all of this new Assassin's Creed information? What do you think of all these new games? Do you like the direction they're going? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.